The CFO mocked my pointless checklists and fired me. Within 60 minutes, 30 mailers and payments froze. When the vendor's CEO joined the board call, he asked a single question that made our CEO turn white. I'd always believed details saved companies. My job as a compliance officer wasn't glamorous, but it kept the gears turning. My pride was my checklists, layered, meticulous, bulletproof. Every vendor payment, every approval chain, every signature went through my system. People joked that I loved red tape. Maybe I did, but red tape keeps you from falling into traps. The problem? Our CFO, Richard Kane. Richard loved shortcuts, big deals, and innovation. He hated anything that slowed him down, especially my insistence on procedures. To him, my checklists weren't safeguards. They were obstacles. For years, we clashed. He thought I was negative. I thought he was reckless. But since the CEO, Thomas Avery, usually sided with him, I learned to pick my battles, until the day the battle picked me. The breaking point came on a Wednesday morning board meeting. Everyone was there. Directors, auditors, even outside consultants. Richard slapped a stack of invoices onto the table like they were winning lottery tickets. $30 million in vendor payments need to clear today, he barked. His tone was smug, the kind he used when he thought he had everyone cornered. Then, with a dramatic flourish, he jabbed a finger at me. And of course, Claire here is holding them up with her pointless checklists. The room chuckled politely. A few eyes darted toward me with a mix of pity and amusement. My face burned, but I kept calm. These aren't pointless, I said evenly. One vendor's contract renewal doesn't match the payment schedule. That's a red flag. If we don't pause and verify, we could expose ourselves to fraud, or worse, lockups. Richard rolled his eyes so hard I thought he might strain something. We don't need her paranoia. We need speed. He leaned back in his chair, smirking like the king of the boardroom. Then, to my shock, he looked straight at Thomas. She's slowing us down. I want her gone. I froze. He couldn't mean it, firing me over doing my job. Surely Thomas would defend me. But Thomas only tightened his jaw, his gaze fixed on the invoices like they contained the answers to life itself. Finally, he muttered, "Maybe it's time." That was it. My dismissal, sealed in 4 casual words. An hour later, HR was escorting me out of the building. 7 years of loyalty reduced to a cardboard box of desk plants, some pens, and a revoked badge. As I walked past my coworkers, most avoided eye contact. A few mouthed sorry, but no one dared speak. Richard's shadow loomed too large. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the wheel. Fired for being careful. Fired for protecting the very people who had thrown me out. My chest ached with a mix of humiliation and rage. When I finally drove home, I should have curled up and cried. Instead, I opened my laptop. If nothing else, I could finish documenting my last reports. Old habits die hard. That's when my phone buzzed. A frantic text from Jenna, a junior analyst I'd mentored. Claire, payments aren't clearing. Systems frozen. CFO losing it. Emergency board call in 10. My stomach flipped. Payments frozen? 30 million? My instincts screamed it was tied to the exact checklist Richard had mocked. Against my better judgment, I stayed logged into my company email. I still had a backdoor notification set up. It pinged whenever compliance approvals were overridden. Within minutes, I saw the invite to the board call flash across my inbox. My hands trembled as I clicked in silently, microphone muted. Faces filled the screen. Richard looked like a man on fire, sweating and barking orders at IT. Thomas sat rigid, his face pale, his tie loosened like he was choking. Then another square appeared on the screen. A sharp-faced man in a tailored suit, calm as stone. Marcus Sterling, the CEO of Sterling Tech, our largest vendor. He didn't look angry. He looked entertained. He leaned back in his chair, chuckling softly, as though the chaos unfolding before him was a comedy show. "Well," he said finally, his voice smooth and cutting, "seems you've run into a problem." His laughter rang out, mocking and merciless. Then he leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Tell me, Mr. Avery, who signed off on bypassing Claire's checklist?" The silence that followed was absolute. The kind of silence that suffocates. And that was the moment Thomas Avery's face drained white. The vendor's CEO, Marcus Sterling, let the question hang like smoke in the room. Everyone knew the answer. Richard Kane had pushed the payments through, skipping the compliance chain I'd built. But Marcus didn't let him off easy. "30 million locked," Marcus said casually, his tone dripping with amusement. "And my company holds the keys. The contracts you rushed don't align with the escrow terms. Without Claire's checklist, you approved void agreements. No checklist, no clearance." He paused, eyes sharp as glass. Then, with a cold smile, "So tell me, who's responsible?" The silence cracked. Richard fumbled first, his face red and shiny with sweat. We just needed to move faster." Marcus cut him off with a laugh that sounded like a slap. "You moved fast, all right, straight into a wall. Without her process, your payments are flagged as fraudulent. The system froze them automatically. Standard safeguard." His eyes flicked over the board members one by one. "If you'd listened to your compliance officer, this wouldn't have happened." Thomas, the CEO, swallowed hard. His silence was louder than Richard's excuses. For years, Thomas had let Richard's bluster bulldoze through reason. Now, with the board watching, with $30 million in limbo, his authority looked brittle. Richard stammered, "This is temporary. We can fix—" "No," Marcus snapped. "You can't fix this. Not without the very person you discarded." He leaned back in his leather chair, almost gleeful now. "Here's my real question. Did you fire her before or after you realized she was the only one keeping your company alive?" The words detonated like a bomb. Even through my muted line, I felt the ripple. Board members shifted uncomfortably, some glancing at each other, others scribbling frantic notes. A few covered their mouths to hide reactions. Richard froze, lips parted, but no words forming. Thomas finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Claire." He was searching the virtual room, scanning the participant list, as though hoping I might somehow be there. My chest tightened. He needed me now, but when it mattered, when I was humiliated and thrown out, he had said nothing. Marcus wasn't done twisting the knife. "Gentlemen, here's the reality. Without a signed reconciliation from Claire's system, Sterling Tech won't release a single dollar. Not one. The contracts are null. The payments are locked. I suggest you reconsider your staffing decisions, quickly." Then he gave a little chuckle, the sound of a man who enjoyed watching arrogance collapse. With that, his screen went dark. The call ended in chaos. Richard shouting. Board members demanding answers. Thomas pale and sweating. I closed my laptop before they realized I'd been listening. My phone buzzed almost instantly. Thomas calling. I let it ring. Then Richard. I let it ring again. Finally, a message from Jenna popped up. "Claire, they're begging you to come back. What are you going to do?" For the first time in years, I didn't feel small or overlooked. I didn't feel like the quiet, stubborn compliance officer everyone rolled their eyes at. I felt powerful. They had mocked me, dismissed me, and fired me. But in the end, my pointless checklists had brought the mighty to their knees. That night, Thomas emailed me personally. No assistance, no legal jargon, just desperation. "Claire, we need you back immediately. Name your terms." I read it 3 times, then closed my laptop. They didn't want me back because they respected me. They wanted me because they feared collapse without me. That wasn't respect. That was survival instinct. Instead of replying, I drafted a new proposal. This one not to them, but to Marcus Sterling. If Sterling Tech valued compliance so much, maybe they'd value me. I laid it out clearly, my experience, my system, and the proof that I had already saved them millions by flagging risks others ignored. 1 week later, I was sitting in Marcus's office at the top of a glittering skyscraper. The man who had laughed at my former bosses leaned across his desk, shaking my hand. "Head of Global Compliance," he said smoothly. "Salary triple what you were paid. Build your own team. Report directly to me." The papers were signed before lunch. When I walked out of that skyscraper, sunlight spilling across the street, I realized something important. I didn't need their approval anymore. The board, the CFO, even Thomas, they had learned the hard way that ignoring me had a cost. A $30 million cost. As for me, I finally understood my worth. The checklists weren't pointless. They were power, and now so was I.